G'day guys, welcome to another episode of the Pumped on Property Show. Now, if you're anything like me personally, you go through bouts of super high motivation and super low motivation when it comes to investing, and you know that's what we really explored today on this potty.
Yeah, it was really nice to talk about like where we began and the types of things that motivated us and that kept us on track to doing what we've been able to do, and then also, you know, where we're at now and the things that we do in our lives to make sure that we are staying motivated and on course. And we get pretty deep, you know, about our personal situations and the things that motivate us, and, you know, also some of the things that we've learned from reading a whole bunch of different books from people that are way bloody smarter than us.
Without a doubt, like what I liked about this is it's your non-traditional approach to motivation, which traditionally it's just keep pushing the rock up the hill, and like if you push it for long enough, maybe you'll get to the top. But for us, it's more like vision, pain, consistency, like going all into something and then getting through that, and then the momentum starts to build, and then all of a sudden you start being pulled through it, and instead of like bouts of effort or whatever, it's more like just consistent monthly, daily rituals that keep everything on track. So like I actually loved filming this one, and I think there's a whole lot of value for you guys that, like, you know, just bounce up and down on this like every human should, really.
Yeah, or even if you're at the start of your journey, and what we talk about is, you know, the type of motivation that you need at the beginning of the journey, where it takes a lot of emotional energy, a lot of physical energy. You've got to do a lot. And Ben uses the analogy of taking off in an airplane, where, you know, the beginning taking off, it takes a lot of energy, but then by the time you get up into the air, it's, you know, a lot easier to maintain that momentum. So just recognizing that if you are at the beginning of a journey, it is going to feel difficult. It is going to be tricky, but things will in time get a hell of a lot easier as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, guys. Stick through it. Man, to me, like, motivation is everything, right? In all aspects of life, you know, when it comes to work, when it comes to investing, when it comes to training, when it comes to your relationships, being a parent, whatever you should do, like having the right motivations and being able to separate yourself from the experience to like actually see what you're doing from a different perspective is just so important to like maintaining a good level of motivation throughout this sort of stuff. But like today, obviously we want to talk far more about investing, because you talk to thousands of investors. I've talked to thousands of investors now as well. And one thing that a lot of people struggle with is just sticking to the plan over a longer period of time, because the average journey to financial freedom is going to take probably 20, 30 years, right?
Realistically, 20 to 30, bro.
And it's so hard to stay motivated for 20 to 30 years. Like, it's most of your life, right?
100%. Like, I want to touch on that because we put investing in this box. It's like investing. I'm an investor. But it's like, no, you're just a human.
Yep. With
fears, with goals, with some days having motivation, some days having absolutely none. And I love the concept of motivation, but the concept of motivation to me is like the concept of happiness. It's like, it's a fleeting experience, and it takes energy to maintain happiness or sadness or motivation. So it's more like, I think where both of us are at now is like the motivation's super important, and when you have it, absolutely burn it and enjoy the shit out of it. Right? But it's more like, you're way past that, bro. I'm looking at it and it's like consistent habits repetitively done in your life that have become rituals that just happen to make you healthy, happy, have a great relationship with your mates, a great relationship with Tay, and you're just going to happen to get financially free if you keep sticking at it.
Yeah, and I think like my biggest motivation to keep doing that is a desire for a better future. A desire for a better life tomorrow than I have today. And I've talked about this all the time. And it's not because I don't like where I'm at right now. I want to have a better life because I can.
I love that, man.
And like, I think that's a very optimistic way about viewing the world. It's like, well, it's in my control. I can control my future if I just happen to do all of these things. And it's like, it's such a big goal. Like it's like how you can't even quantify that, and you can't like actually put, you know, there's no necessarily time frame. There's no end goal. It's just constantly trying to be better, constantly learning, constantly investing, constantly training, constantly doing the things that I need to be doing to stay there. But like, you're so right that like that consistency is everything, and it starts out as a chore or something that you need to force yourself to do, but then it just becomes natural. It just becomes a part of your life, eh?
Bro, I love hearing that. Like, I think back to when I was at uni studying health promotion, which, like, as you know, like, I thought I wouldn't be doing this stuff.
No.
Like, I thought
Who knows what they want to do in their early 20s, right?
You know, I thought I'd be working for Oxfam or, like, World Vision and changing the world that way. And it's like, then I went and worked with those companies and, you know, no disrespect, but most of the people were complaining about money, unhealthy, and, like, didn't have the skills to serve properly.
Sure.
So, like, I've changed my path for now, but, like, I feel like we're contributing in a positive way to this. But, like, the number one thing that they talked about for people to be happy and for communities to be healthy is what you said. Like, they call it self-determination or whatever. Like, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like the idea that you have influence over your own future and you can positively influence it. And you could call it control, you could call it setting a vision, you could call it setting goals, but in reality, it is, the world is happening at me. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do with that? Mm-hmm. There's pleasure, there's pain, there's fear, there's excitement, there's motivation, there's depression, there's booms and busts. So we know that's been the case for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So now what?
Yeah, that's so true. It's like, this is going to happen regardless. That's human nature. That's life.
4 seasons.
Yeah, always.
4 financial markets. It's all the same shit.
It's all the same stuff, hey? And like, I think having that understanding is, it's like, okay, well, there's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be good years. There's going to be bad years. You know, I'm going to wake up some mornings and feel like I can take on the world. Like, I'm ready to go out there and give it my all. But other days you're just like, I just need to cuddle. And once you accept that, it's like, well, on those bad days, having that awareness is like, I think it's that Bruce Lee quote. It's like, remember that when things are good, receive them fully. I'm paraphrasing because I don't know.
I send on your vision board at the moment.
Yeah, it's like, when life is good, receive it fully and experience it fully. But when life is bad, recognize that all things come to an end and there will be a good future again at some point. I absolutely butchered that. Sorry, everybody.
But I love that.
You get the idea. It's like, nothing is permanent except change. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. But I think the people that end up being the most successful is the ones that can just pull themselves through the bad days and still do what they need to do.
I love that, man. Like, you know, in terms of answering this question, like how I stay motivated when purchasing property,
it's been a decade.
It starts with the pull. Now, you said pulling yourself through, and what I'm referring to, and I think you're referring to with that, is a vision. And it's like, pulling yourself through feels like pushing a rock. It requires energy. Deciding who you want to be, and then setting an intention that the future is going to be better than today, and going, well, I want to be financially free. I want great relationships with my kids. I want to be able to pick them up or drop them at school or take some time off in the school holidays if I can. I want to do meaningful work. Like, that's okay. Like, I want to be healthy. I want to travel. I want to have good friendships. I want to volunteer. Why not? Like, why not have it all? And it's like, so if that's your vision, like a life filled with abundance in the future, plus like financial freedom, I was talking about it with one of the boys in the office yesterday, it's so easy to articulate it. So when I say to people, what do you want? It's very easy to go 100K of passive income or 200 grand. But what they're really saying is, I want those choices, and I want a vision that's better than today, and I want a choice of how I spend the 50 hours a week, which it is 50 hours by the time you look at commutes, getting ready, switching off.
Yep.
It's a hell of a lot of time. So it's like, I want control over that time, and the way out of that is money. And then once you've got the money, it's a free-for-all. Like, it's a choice to do whatever you want to do for the rest of your life. So it starts with vision for me.
Yeah, and how is that vision, or how is that daily, weekly, monthly, yearly rituals changed from when you were 24 and first getting started to today?
It's like the plane taking off, man, that we've talked about so many times before. It required so much energy at 24 to figure it out. Like, I'm really going super, super, super deep into stocks at the moment to try and figure them out for my family's future. it requires so much energy
Yeah.
because you don't know who's who in the zoo.
No.
You don't know the systems, the practices, how to read the charts. Like, it's all new. So when I was starting with property, I didn't know that buying Metro would make me 80% better off over 20 years than the average regional market. I didn't know that a house had outperformed in the 20 years before that 96% better.
Yeah,
of
almost
25
double.
years. Like, I didn't know that there's a suburb that could be worth $1 million here that's a flavour of the month, and the one next to it could be worth 500. And in 5 years' time, the value gap would have changed to an historical average. Like,
And even if somebody had have told you that at 24, you can't hear it yet because you don't have the foundations to understand it yet.
so at 24, like, I was like, everything.
Yep.
Like, the bigger the catch.
Yep.
And then slowly
More is better.
over time, it's simplified down to a set of principles
Yeah.
that I apply for investing, which make decisions so black and white and easy.
And quick.
It's like within 1 minute, you and I can look at a market and
Yeah.
know if we'd even consider it. Within
Yeah.
1 minute, I can look at a suburb.
Yeah.
Within 1 minute, I can look at a property.
Yeah.
Done.
And
like,
that's 10,000 hours of experience, over 10,000 hours of experience in the one thing.
So the thing to answer the question is that's changed is it's requiring less energy. And I want everybody that's listening to this to recognize that if it's a new behavior, the first thing is it's going to be stressful as hell while you try and figure it out. Then there's going to be like a control element that's like, I know this and this is my structure, which is the wrong structure. And then over time, there'll be I've got my principles, and after you've got your principles, it's just all fun. It's all letting it go because it becomes a full-on game again.
Yeah, and like you were a little bit different to me growing up. I think there's a huge difference in family dynamics as well between the oldest and the youngest siblings, because you would have felt a lot more responsibility to look after the younger siblings, and I was just free range.
Sure.
So like you kind of figured out making money, investing, all these things a lot earlier than I did, and I had to kind of bump my way through life, and I got there in the end. And fortunately, with my personality type, I'm very efficient focused. So whenever I'm learning something, I'm trying to figure out, well, how can I do this better?
Yeah.
Quicker, better, easier, with everything. And like when we were in the States and you were like, hey bro, I really want you to move up to Queensland, and I really want you to partner up with me for this business. Like, things are going good, and I've got Crystal working with us. I'd love to have you come up. And I was kind of at a crossroads in my life at that point in time. And I go, sure, like let's give it a crack, you know, let's roll with it. I had no awareness of like how sometimes the universe, the world throws you these opportunities and you just got to roll with it. You know, at the time I was kind of just living that without knowing that. And I moved up, but I didn't know about investing very much at that point in time. I didn't know much about real estate. I'd never had really a secure job, but I committed to it. And I was like, let's give it a crack. And in that first year, I just went all in. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, like, let's actually do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing about staying motivated, because a lot of people dabble. They dip their toe in the pool and they go, I don't like it. Or I do like it. But like, just dipping your toe in the pool doesn't really give you enough awareness as to whether or not it's going to be something that you enjoy.
It gives you nothing, man.
Nothing. So
Yeah.
I like dove in. I'm like, I've moved up from Sydney. I've started this new career. There's amazing opportunity here. I get to work with my family. I get to train during my lunch break, surf in my mornings. Like, life has been amazing since making that transition, but there was still the unknown about property. So I was just like, learn it, you know, figure it out. So you gave me a set of books. I read all the books. I listened to the audio books. You sent me the podcast. You told me which ones to listen to. I listened to every single one of them. I read all the articles, and I literally dove headfirst into the deep end and just completely immersed myself in it. And then after 1 year, because I learnt so much about it in that first year, I, you know, figured things out. I'm like, okay, cool. This is like a path. This is like a full-on way for me to get to where I want to be in the future. Now it's just about, like, exactly as you said, like, that first year was super intense, but even though I didn't know how it was going to happen, I still committed to, like, seeing it through.
Love that.
And then it's all sort of now gotten, as you said, easier and easier and easier. Like, every single day I wake up, it's like less pressure.
I love that, man. Like, I didn't have that on the list of things that I sort of wrote down when we were planning, but commitment is everything. And commitment becomes so many things, but I think the first thing that commitment becomes is like, okay, I'm going to go deeper than the average person, which will allow you to go further than the average person. And then commitment becomes a set of like principles or disciplines that, like, executed consistently over time, change everything. Like
Everything.
Change everything. And commitment to me gives you like a taste of, do I really like this? Like, do I enjoy being in business? And real estate were two things you had to figure out for yourself. And it's like, cool, like if I can commit fully and get better than the average person in those fields, like, one, what does that look for my lifetime? Mm-hmm. And two, what does it look like if I actually show up with what I enjoy?
Yeah.
But if you just dip the toe and never fully commit to something, like, how do you know if it's the door you should shut or if it's the door you should open?
Yeah, and I could have like found excuses to not enjoy it, and I could have found reasons to like push it away. But I just was like, this is my new reality. This is my new norm. Let's find ways to be happy. Let's find ways to stay motivated rather than playing the victim card. Life is happening at me, going, this is all happening for me. Work with it, roll with the punches, knowing that it's all going to kind of work out in the end. And I think like having that underlying belief in that, like, you are exactly where you are meant to be right now, be there.
So vision helps you see where you're going. Commitment is opening the door. The thing that turns everybody off, in my opinion, from following through on this journey of motivation is the pain that comes up then. So it's like, okay, I'm all in, pain. You know, in terms of your form, it came through like just me being me, like all over you to get you as good as you can be.
And me being me, right? Like, you know.
As well, like it's just the same thing. And it's like, you know, I've had 3 mentors that did the same thing to me, and it's like, cool, you can like dabble for 20 years in the business world, or you can just go work for someone who like has got it, and you can just follow them for a few years and like just, it's a hack.
Yeah.
And it's like the pain in the form of investing shows up as your mortgage broker. Like my mortgage broker for 3.5 years told me that I couldn't borrow $1, and I was like, every fucking month, can I do it now? Can I do it now? He's like, I've got no better news for you. Or savings, like, it's painful to constantly save when everyone else around you is doing the other stuff. It's like, it's really, really, really difficult when the property area that you've bought in has just declined in value, or that property market has been flat, or you have bought a bunch of assets and you realize they're the wrong ones. And then you're like, well, fuck, what am I going to do here?
Yeah.
Not only are they the wrong ones and they're taking me further from where I wanted to be, but even worse, they're stopping me from changing it for the better because I'm maxed out.
It's almost like non-stop adversity. Like at that point in time, you know, you look at other situations as well, like just natural progression in life. If you start early, you meet a partner, you might go from 2 incomes to 1 income and another dependent.
Yeah.
And that like really impacts your ability to save and continue moving forward, buying more assets if you need to. So there's so many reasons and there's so many things that are going to come up from, you know, the vision, the commitment to the like destination.
Yeah.
So how, like, what are you sort of like, how do you kind of pivot? How do you personally pivot through that? Because you've been thrown a hell of a lot of adversity.
Yeah, well, anybody that tries to do anything is going to get a hell of a lot of adversity, right? Because like I was reading Principles, Ray Dalio's book, when I was on holidays, and he said the only way to become great at something is really to go through that cycle. So he says, try something, fail, reflect, learn, or turn them into a series of principles, try again, fail, reflect, learn, try again. And it's like, my psychologist has said it to me for 4 years. He's like, you feel like you're going around in circles, Ben. And so many of us listening to this feel the same way. Like your health's going around in the same circle, your relationship with your partner is, or like your lack of relationship, or, you know, whatever it is, like your finances are going around in this circle. Like there's some years where you just can't put a single dollar away because it's so tight for so many people out there. I've been there. you know, your learning's going around in a circle and you're back where you started, which is where you should be, which is I don't know anything. So I'm just going to be a student forever.
I love that.
But he says, you're not going around in a circle. I've talked about this before. You're going up a spiral staircase, which is leading you to where you're supposed to be.
I love that.
And there's a difference between going around in a dead circle and going around a circle up.
Yeah.
That is just a way of looking at things. And so when you're deep in the pain or when you're deep in the figuring this out stage, it's just going to be like a roundabout.
It's building that resilience as well. And once you deal with, like, you experience the adversity, you overcome the adversity, and you keep going forward, it really strengthens your personality. It strengthens you as a human. Like, everyone says that it's like growth comes through challenges, right?
100%.
So, like, changing that perspective and rather than looking at that going like, I'm just going around in a circle, like looking at it as going like, this circle, it's a new lesson. It's like, was it Benjamin Franklin when he was inventing the light bulb or whatever? He's like, I didn't fail. Like, I just learned a new way of not doing things every single time.
Yeah, just 10,000 times.
Yeah.
It's like, that is the secret, bro. Like, this is the thing about us being adults, right? Like, as kids, I watch my kids play. Fail, 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 playful. There's no attachment. Like, my daughter's trying to do handstands or like the walkovers or whatever, or like, and she'll just fail. And it's only when an adult interjects and watches that it becomes more serious for her that she's got to do it. And it's like, when she's just playing, like, I've seen her in a day do like 3 hours of that, not even care. Like, I've seen her on the monkey bars come home with her hands, like, legitimately, like, she's one of those people that will just come home hands bleeding and be like, oh shit, like, I overdid it. Like, she's one of them. But for some reason, as adults, we get scared of ourselves. We get scared of the boogeymans out there. We get scared of the rest of the world. We get scared of the market. We get scared of the rejection and the no's that you're gonna have to go through. And they shut the door. And it sounds like you've committed, door shut.
Yeah.
And you didn't really commit, you dipped a toe.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, for me and you, I think the path for anyone to financial freedom, like, I do absolutely believe in diversification. And now that I'm getting further along, things like Ray Dalio's all-weather portfolio are like game-changing things to learn. But it's like, Ray didn't get there from a diversified portfolio, and Warren didn't. And, you know, I didn't get there from trying to do 10 different things. Like, I got there because I went all in on one thing, and that one thing is now enabled me to go, oh, maybe, like, it's worth looking at stocks, because, like, every successful person in the world is in stocks. So I was there might be something there.
It's sort of a natural progression, which is going to happen. But I also like to look at the flip side, and it's like, there's good things that are going to happen, right? You know, like, one of the big motivators for me is the last 12 months has been really positive. I've been able to increase the rental return from my properties. I've got a pretty significant equity increase from holding those properties through some movement. So it's like, there's other good things as well that are going to happen. And it's like, okay.
After paying the seeds of like, oh my God, it's working, start popping out. And that is the momentum point.
Yeah, that's the momentum point. And then that kind of like reinvigorates everything. And you're just like, oh, cool. Like, I've made the right decision. All of that hard work, all of that stuff that I did, all of that stuff that I overcame is finally starting to pay off. And no, I'm not receiving it yet. Like, no, I don't have the cash flow that's making me financially free. I'm so far from it. I don't have the property set up in the way that I want them to be right now, but I'm still looking at them going, look, I'm still moving forward because the decisions that I made, the challenges that I overcame are starting to like bear fruits.
I love that, bro. Like, that is so important. So, like, after the pain point comes the, oh my God, something just worked.
Yeah.
And it was like my choices that made it work.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a whole lot of market factors too. But, you know, when you were buying Brisbane, no one was looking at Brisbane still at that point in a meaningful way. And, you know, when you were buying, it was also like a very, very difficult time for 95% of people. Like, they rushed so quickly out of the market that the stock market dropped 40%. It's
I bought the property, I think property market dropped 12% the first year I bought my first property.
Yeah.
Then I bought 2 in the midst of COVID.
Yeah.
And it's like, there was, like, if I had have followed the sentiment of the market at the time, I wouldn't have done anything, and I would have kept that cash in the bank, and it would have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So let's talk about this. Like, I love what you've just opened up there, which is like, you move into like, oh my God, it's working. I've reflected on my mistakes and I'm going to choose to do better now. And then talk about momentum for motivation, because I think momentum is what breeds confidence and pain breeds resilience. And when you've got confidence and resilience, meaning you think that things are going to be right and you know even if they're not, you can survive them, like that starts creating scaffolding for like a really different story that you start telling yourself in your head.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Maybe I'm worthy. Maybe this is going to work out. Maybe this vision is fucking becoming a reality, and because of that, everything starts to shift.
Yeah, and you kind of move away from that imposter syndrome that we all suffer from, or most high performers suffer from. It's like, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this. And then it's like, if you actually like look at what's happening, it's like, okay, well, maybe I am worthy, maybe I do deserve this, maybe I am good enough. And that internal talk starts to shift, and then that obviously builds more momentum, and it's like, okay, well, what I did worked, so let's double down on it. And that's sort of where I'm at now. It's like, I've done that, and now I'm just so intrigued about learning new things. So I'm also looking into, I'm dabbling more into the crypto side of things. I had a really, really epic chat with one of our clients, Mike, the other week, and he's just like explained it in such a simple way. And I just found that one thing that you really need to look for that's like, and it gives you the confidence to like, okay, this is something that I could probably spend 10,000 hours focusing on, right? Because like 10,000 hours is a long time. So I'm just getting into that. But what I'm sort of getting at is like, you've got that blueprint to back yourself a bit more. And it's like, well, this works. So like, keep learning, keep listening to the podcast, keep reading the books, keep researching the markets, keep taking the action, because it's starting to work, and I'm starting to do that. And I think that analogy of like a plane taking off is perfect. It's like, it takes like 90% of the energy just to take off. But then once you're up in the air, it's just like smooth sailing from there on in.
I watch it, man. Like I listen to people, how they communicate. Like I just can't help it. I think because of having so many phone conversations, even when I'm in person, I'm hearing things that people aren't expressing because I'm listening for the cue.
Yeah.
And I find people that are at the start of the journey are generally falsely confident, or filled with information that is like the 1% of what they need to know. I've been there so much.
Yep.
You know, the less you know, the more you talk, I suppose. But then you talk as well. Like you've got to share it with people as well. When it becomes about service, then you start talking again. But I was, watching someone who's close to both of us at the moment talk about his position, and there's just so much more that comes up than just real estate or stocks or crypto when it comes to like, am I worthy? Like, I think you addressed it so well. It's like, we are all absolutely worthy. That is my thing. But it's like, with all the shit that gets packed on you during the pain phase of your journey, plus all of the stories from your past and your parents' past and all the hereditary conditioning that you've got behind you, it takes a little while to shake that stuff off. Like I had to completely change my association with money. I listened to, no disrespect, mum and dad talk, and I'm like, I can see why you're in your financial positions that you both are, which are both great compared to the average Aussie, but there's a ceiling. And the ceiling is the limiting beliefs and thoughts and the worthiness. And it's like, at some point in your lifetime, whether it's now or on your deathbed, like all of that's just going to be shaken off, and you'll like, will recognize that we're just fucking infinitely amazing. So it's like the progress of the steps and the goals and the vision and the momentum and the pain, like all shakes it off. But it's like, or you can just cut through that and just choose to go, okay, I get that, like, I'm going to self-sabotage myself probably more. Like, your self wants to, like, you to fail as much as it wants to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's a twisted concept.
Oh, it's weird, right?
But that's the human nature. And I listen to people, I'm like, hang on, what does all this have to do with just buying a metro house in Brisbane at the bottom of the market? It's just, this is like logic, numbers based on 100 years worth of data. What does, like,
it's excuses to
the
not
fear
take
have
action.
anything to do with it?
I think like all's we're constantly trying to do is justify why not to do something. Like
pain. Dip the toe. Oh, it hurt me.
Yeah, like everyone's always trying to find excuses why not to do something rather than the latter, like the opposite. Like why not try and find excuses to do something? And that can be dangerous. Like sometimes if you're, like you said, like at the beginning, if you're overly ambitious, or if you listen to the wrong people because you just don't have that experience yet, and you get the wrong advice, you make the wrong decision, that stuff happens. So you've got to be cautious, but I like to be cautiously optimistic. And it's like, yeah, I'm cautious. Take everything with a grain of salt. Listen to everything, but take it with a grain of salt. And then figure out my own way and just, do it. Like, do it, because Tony Robbins says it the best. It's like, inaction is what's going to hold you back from living your true purpose and being, like, living your best life.
One of my good friends, man, has, he, like, talks to you about Greg a lot. He runs, like, he runs a big team globally for one of the biggest, most progressive companies in the world. And he's got me starting to think about risk so differently. And there is a risk of overdoing it. Mm-hmm. Like, that is a really deadly risk. And as many people fail as that. Like, out of all of the business people in the world and all of the investors, like, the ones that generally fail are the ones that overshoot. Mm-hmm. But if that's 1% of humanity that does that, what is the risk of the 99% of us that don't have enough of a crack? Like, what's the risk, right, of that person who was in a great financial position after 2008? Mm-hmm. Many Australians were lucky enough to have a job still, have money in the bank, have equity in their home.
Just being in Australia, right?
Just being in Australia at that time. What was the risk of, like, not buying a house or two in Sydney in 2011?
Yeah.
What was the risk of not buying something in Melbourne in 2013 or in the Mornington Peninsula or Geelong at the time? Like, what is the risk of non-action, not just in terms of, like, the financial downside, but of, like, who you become by not achieving your potential, which is who you were born to be.
And you start talking about, like, you start becoming that as well. It's like, oh, I would have, I should have, I could have, but I didn't,
Man,
right?
It breaks me, but like, I get it.
Yeah. And, like, the cool thing is, like, we've all got time. Like, we all underestimate how much time we've got. Like, everybody, you at 20, you want to be free by 30. People at 30 want to be free by 45. People at 45 want to be free by 65. It's like, you've no matter where you are, you do have time.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, like, working with a client like Irene. She comes in and she had a negative experience through real estate in the past, and that really impacted her. But she's like, look, I love what I do for work. I am committed to doing this for at least another 12 years. I've already got one property. All I need is maximum another 2 properties. I'll sell one. I'll live off the income from the 2. And it's just like, I think she's in her late 50s, early 60s.
The nicest lady of all time.
Nicest, but she's gone, okay, I understand where I'm at. I'm still giving myself the right amount of time, and I'm going to work towards it. But so many people think that they don't have enough time, or they're rushing to do it, or they're trying to get out too soon. But, like, maybe just take a step back and go, well, how long am I going to work for if I don't do anything? Which is probably until you're 65, 70 if you're under the age of 30. Like, that's going to happen if you don't do anything. Then you look at what could happen if I do something. It's like, well, I'm trying to get out in 5 years. It's like, well, hang on. Like, why are you trying to get out in 5 years if the alternative is working for another 40? It's like, just have a little bit of perspective there and go, look, if I can just set, like, a 15-year goal, 20-year goal even, you're going to get there. Like, you will get there. No matter what financial position you're in, there is options for you to be completely financially free if you're setting a longer term time frame.
I love that, man. I think my journey started from trying to run away from who I was towards who I thought I should be. And for a lot of people, it starts that way. But it's like, if I was truly financially free today, which I'm not, but I'm, like, slowly working towards it, I would absolutely choose to serve the world through business and through my time in non-for-profit anyway.
And every successful person says that.
Everyone, because, I've had little mini breaks. Like, I see my university time, like 4 years working 12 hours a week as, like, a test of retirement. And even at that stage, when I had, like, mates around me all the time, like, training all the time, surfing, skating all the time, holidays all the time, it's miserable sitting on the beach for years and years and years, which is what I did. Like,
a little mini break's perfect.
Like, it's just recognizing that, like, maybe the thing that you're running from isn't got anything to do with, like, what you're running towards.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's just...
that's a really epic Little line.
Yeah, like maybe it's just like, okay, like I want a balanced life. What does that
Yeah.
look like for me? Like, what do I truly value? And this is the next part of this. Like, in terms of motivation, when vision and goals and pain and momentum turn into just, I value this being in my life. Like, I value being financially free because of the choices it's going to give me, my kids, my family, my future.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that gets you to that point, which is that huge amount of work, just lets go. And if you've got like principles or rules to support how you do things with the decisions you make down the line, and you consistently show up a little bit, just enough, it's insane. Like letting go of like the goal and moving into the activity phase of just, cool, I'm just going to have fun doing this.
Yeah.
That's the game changer for me. That was the big change from like, it's so much work to, I could do this for the rest of my life and in the next lifetime because I love it. And I love helping people.
Yeah, it's like, stop putting so much emphasis and so much like focus on the end result, because you're never going to be happy if you're just constantly chasing the next thing. Whereas if you can identify your values, live in alignment with those values, and find the joy in the little wins, and rather than like putting this end goal on a big massive pedestal, and it's like, when I get here I will be this, going, okay, well, like, let's, as you said, like reverse engineer that back. Let's set mini goals throughout that journey, which is, you know, to either save a deposit, buy a house,
pay off debt.
You know, that's the investing side of things. But then, you know, for me, it's like to break up, because as a Libra and with my personality type, I need a balance. I need a balance in my life between work and play. So I've worked to a point where I've got my work week down to 4 days per week. So I get 3 days off per week, and that enables me to like really stay in flow. And then I make sure that I have little breaks all the time, like a little camping trip away or a little weekend away, but then also having that bigger trip as well, where you're away for like at least a week or something like that, where you can completely switch off from your phone. And it's like all of those little things, that they're all little goals, like to get my work week to 4, to make sure that I have these little breaks, all based on my values, all based on the person that I truly want to be. And it's like, because I've done that, I'm living in complete alignment with my values, with my true self. I'm doing the things that allow me to feel like I'm living in balance and doing that. And then what's happened to me is the journey has become the goal. Rather than the future being the goal, the journey is the goal. You know, I enjoy everything that I do on a daily basis that's going to help me get to where I want to be, but it's more about the daily doing or whatever it is.
Yeah, like I love that so much, man. Like there's so much bullshit around, like it's the daily grind and you've got to hustle and you've got to hit the destination point. It's like, what if everything that society told us was actually wrong? And it's like the happiest people are the simplest people. The happiest people are the ones that figure out what's important and let it go, that find their values and live them. And it's like, it doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. Like this journey towards financial freedom, like from my experience, can be absolute pain if that's the way that you want to take it, or absolute pleasure. And it's like, I've done it like the rock up the hill way, and it's like, it's just much easier to have a vision pulling you towards your own future and being just absolutely embedded in this moment right now.
Yeah, and you would agree that like that the shift for you was identifying and living in alignment with your values, right?
That's the big shift, right?
Yeah.
You know, financial independence is important. So as those little surprises come up in the whole world that we exist in, like that's Ray Dalio's words, like there's surprises, or as like you fall and have to learn, it's like, how do you approach that? Like for a long time, I approached it as like, this is so bad. Failure is like a reflection of yourself. And it's like, actually failure is the only way to grow.
Yeah.
So just embrace that change and embrace that. And then like that, it just changed your whole perspective towards like what's success and what's failure. It's like, it's all part of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And motivation as well. You know, there's no simple answer to these types of questions. And I'm just stoked to have another freaking amazing conversation in these things. Like, I really love that we're changing the way that people talk about investing and financial freedom and things like that, because the norm is grind hard, sacrifice, do all of these types of things, where the truth of this is it's all in here. Nothing is out there. Like, everything is within yourself. Nothing is outside of yourself. And once you can live in harmony within yourself, everything's going to begin to happen for you.
I love that, man. Like, I think about like one of my favorite movies, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, when he's on the beach and he's learning to surf, and it's like,
do less.
The guy can surf and he's like, do less. And it's like, it's so frustrating to watch, but it's the secret too. It's like, if you know how to surf, then you can see everything the guy's doing wrong and all he does need to do is less. But if you're the guy that's just starting out, when someone's saying do less and you don't even know what you're doing, like, it is hell. And it's like, that is pretty much this world. Like, the stage that you're at reflects like how much energy you're putting into it or how much you're just letting it go. It's so weird to say that, because Simon and I probably do more than 90% of people, but it doesn't feel like work at all. Like, buying doesn't feel hard, saving doesn't feel hard, sitting down and reading about the market each week. Like, I went for a swim this morning at Mooloolaba, and then on the way home, I'm like, I want to learn more about inflation and the types of assets that do well and poorly in inflation. And one of the nice things to find was real estate does do good in inflationary times.
Woo, thank God.
You know, historically, but it was just like, it didn't feel like a chore. Like, it felt like it's a value to me to like figure out how to invest my money better so that my kids, I can see more of them in 10 years, in 5 years, in 2 years now.
And I think that's because your experience has allowed you to believe that. It's like, because you put so much value on learning, on educating, on being aware of all of these different things, it's actually, it's not a chore, because you know what you're going to get out of that is far better than if you don't listen to it at all.
100%. Like, I listened to, on the way home this morning, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett do an interview, and Bill's like, yeah, I read about 8 hours a day, and Warren's like, I read about 6.
Wow.
These guys are like the most successful people in the entire world, and all they spend their time doing outside of like probably putting out fires, the poor bastards, is like learning. And it's like, if those guys who are actually geniuses, like IQs over 140, 150 or whatever, like maybe even higher than that, and they're still wanting to learn, and they're
old, you know,
they're
like
old dudes now.
Yeah, well, some people probably say no, but yeah, to me they
I
are.
mean, Warren Buffett's in his 90s, man. And
yeah, they're
like,
old.
Still chooses to spend his life doing that. It's like, if those guys have more to learn, then
we've all got more to learn.
do. But it's like, does learning have to be a trigger and a painful thing, or can it just be joyful when it's like the thing that is going to secure your future? So exciting, man. I love this stuff. And motivation's rough, because I'm one of those people that doesn't have it consistently. I'm like, which is why I've tailored my approach to investing. This is important to note. I'm a sprinter by nature who can run distances if I need to.
Yeah.
So I've tailored my approach to investing as to how I live life. And if I'm going to buy a property, I save for it for ages, because it takes a long time to save. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to buy. I get my pre-approval. I identify my market, suburbs, and then I'm all in until that point. And it's like, it might take me a month to find the right place.
But it's every day talking to agents, reviewing the market, going nuts.
Just, you know, these days, luckily, it's more like, hey, Crystal, can you please find me a great property? You know, because my team's better at it than I am now. But it's like, I go all in. Oh, like, I'm pretty exhausted from that extra burst of energy, which only took 2 hours per week. But for a client, it takes 15 minutes a week. Yeah. And it's like, done. Don't even think about buying again until I'm ready to buy again. No. Like, not even think about it once. Yeah. It's just it's a weird place to be. And I want everyone to realize, like, it doesn't have to be this, just because it's a long time frame doesn't mean that it has to be a marathon journey. It can be tiny little snippets of sprints in between. Find
your individual way of doing things as well, and your individual way of how, like, for yourself, you're all or nothing kind of guy. It's like, I'm all in or I'm not in at all. Yeah. With me, I'm kind of like, you know, a bit more, I can kind of just go with the flow, and I can kind of, you know, dabble in and not like really fully attached to it and things like that. So you just got to figure out your way of doing things.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true, man. Like, that's my little way. But, you know, I would like every investor to go get like a type A or type 1 or type B, like probably personality, as well as like a genetic test to figure out what their predisposition is muscle-wise. And I'd love to track that over 100 years and see, like,
what's better.
You know, I just feel
There's
like
no
however
better.
you naturally make decisions is the best way.
Yeah,
for
for
you.
sure,
You
for
know,
sure.
if it takes you 5 years to think about it for 5 years. If it takes you like 3 months to consolidate and then do it that way. Whatever's safe.
Exactly. Hey, was there anything else that we had down on that list that we wanted to talk
Don't
about?
think there's anything else in my brain right now. I feel like I've said everything I could say in this lifetime just then.
I love it, man. No, it's awesome, and you know, there's no right or wrong way about going about investing. Like, you've just got to figure out what motivates you, what keeps you in flow, what keeps you focusing on what it is that you really want to have in life. And you know, I think the biggest thing to take away is like, stop putting the destination on the pedestal and start putting the little wins, the journey, as like the goal, like the day-to-day goal.
100%. And then, you know, there's hundreds of years of literature on investing around the world. Like, do it in
Fortunately,
a way,
right?
do it in a way that's lower risk. Like, you know, learn from the property dudes or the stock guys or the whatever other things people invest in, like, that have done it for 40 years and figure out a way to mitigate your risk through having savings buffers in place, through like thinking about the types of assets you buy before you buy them. You know what I mean? Like,
understanding when to buy, when to sell, when to leverage, when to, you know, reduce your risk.
Or just for the average punter like me, like, the safest way is just long term.
Yep.
But yeah, we wish you guys all the best. Like, we're stoked for wherever you're at in your journey. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and if you have, please give us a 5-star review on the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for sticking out all the way to the end. Please give us a thumbs up and a subscribe if you haven't already done that.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty.